Hey, what's going on, good people? Listen, I wanted to share something with you while I was in the middle of recording some other stuff. So the other day I was on, what was I at? I want to say Facebook. Yeah. So the other day I was on Facebook and in a marriage group, someone posted, men don't need love. Men don't need to be loved. They need respect. And I replied to that post and I put, in my Jaffe Jofer voice, who told you that? From Coming to America. Uh, that's not true. Okay. Men do need to be loved, and women need to be respected. This idea comes from the Bible, right? Husbands, love your wives. Wives, respect your husbands. Just because he doesn't tell the women to love their husbands, it doesn't mean that the wife isn't to love the husband. I've heard people preach that. The problem with that is we're human beings. And all human beings, every last one of us, thrive. All of us will thrive on love, connected to healthy relationships. Now, the reason that Paul said, wives respect your husband, because she has a natural inclination because of the fall to disrespect, right? And he has a natural inclination to not be so gentle and loving. But both the husband and the wife need love and respect, okay? But now beyond that, there are other myths, misconceptions, and misunderstandings about what makes marriage work and what makes marriage thrive, right? So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. The first thing you got to understand, the first thing you got to understand is the fact that marriage is God's idea. Marriage is God's idea. We didn't create it. The government didn't create it, even though the government regulates it, for the most part. The government didn't create, God created marriage. And because he created it, then it would make sense to go to the creator of a thing to determine or to figure out how best a thing works, right? And everything when it's created, ideally, I guess, everything when it's created, it works its best when it's first created. So if you want to know how to do marriage, we go back to the first marriage and we look at that and figure out what are the messages that God is sending about how to do marriage, right? Because if we believe that God is intentional, and he is, we believe that everything he did or does, it's for a purpose, then we got to, if you just look at the creation story and how it plays out, created, everything, and then he created the man after he created everything. So he created an environment for man, then he put the man in the environment, right? After he put the man in the environment, then turn my fan on because I'm hot. Well, I can't turn it on because it's off at the switch. So anyway, so he creates an environment, put the man in the environment, and then after that, just think about what I'm saying. God did this himself. He created Adam. So obviously he knows how to create a man. He knows how to create a human being. Then God himself, based on his own creation, said, it's not good that man be alone. Well, you the one created him alone. God, if it's not good for man to be alone, why did you create him alone? Because he wanted to teach us something. So he created Adam first. But it's interesting when he says it's not good for man to be alone, it says, so God gave him an assignment to name the animals, not God created Eve. Most folk don't realize that. It says it's not good for man to be alone, and then he gave Adam an assignment. I believe the reason he did that was to point out to Adam, or to arise in Adam a need that God put there that Adam didn't know he had. So Adam, with the animals, he was good. He had a relationship with God. He had intimate conversation with God, and he had a beautiful garden. He had plenty of food. He was good. Adam, I don't believe Adam knew that he was alone until he started naming the animals, and they came two by two. And then he said, wait a minute. There's nobody like me. All of y'all got somebody. The pigs got pigs, and, the horses got horses. Roaches got roaches. You're silly. But there's nobody for me. So God puts the man in a situation where he can recognize the need, then God met the need. It's interesting to me, maybe because I'm a marriage therapist, but it's interesting to me. God said it's not good for man to be alone. The need that was created, that God said was not good, the answer to that was another human being. It wasn't a better job. It wasn't more money. It wasn't a different house. It wasn't education. It was another human being, a complementary human being. A complementary, the Bible calls it suitable, a suitable partner for him. See, Adam had partners, you can call the animals partners, but they were not suitable for his needs. Watch this. God wasn't suitable for Adam either, because Adam needed someone like him in order to love and receive love. So he creates Eve. Now, watch this. So he creates Eve. Adam then says, this is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Check out the intimacy, the level of intimacy between this husband and this wife. So, because I believe all of this is intentional, because God is intentional. And a lot of this I explain in my upcoming book, Who Taught You How to Do Marriage. I think this is chapter, I want to say 6, the intimacy chapter. But anyway, so he creates Adam. So when God created Adam, inside of Adam was the answer to Adam's deepest need. Adam's deepest need. How do I know that was Adam's deepest need? Because Adam was human. And so are we. Our deepest need is to be connected to other human beings. God knew that. He created Adam that way. So the relationship he had with God was necessary, but not sufficient for what God wanted to do in his life. So he created him another human being that he can relate to on his level, right? But watch this. So he creates Adam with Eve inside, but Adam don't know that. So the blessing is inside. They're one. So God created mankind at one time. When he put Adam to sleep, he took Eve out of Adam's body, took the rib, formed woman, brought her to him. So check out the intimacy picture. Okay, I'm trying to paint a picture for you. First of all, the picture is we're so close, we're one being, but we're alone now. So God separates the one being and makes two out of the one. But for marriage, look at the picture of closeness. The two, they're so close because of intimacy. They look like or operate as one flesh. That is why, now, I'll be honest with you. Let me just give this disclaimer. I haven't gone to seminary, right? I am a preacher, but I have not gone to seminary. I haven't studied the Greek and the Hebrew and all of that on this, right? These are my interpretations and speculations of the behind the scenes of what's written in Scripture. I'm not violating Scripture, right? But I'm just explaining. So the picture of intimacy, I believe, is shown in sex. Because think about it. If a man and a wife are going to be, Well, if two human beings are going to be close, how close can they get? We can sit as close as we can. I can squeeze you really tight. We are like super close. We can't be separated. We are connected, or at least it feels like. But God says, no, 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 I want you closer than that. Your bodies, I want their bodies to be connected. And so God creates sex, and he makes sex amazing because he wants them to connect often. That's just what I believe. I don't have scripture for that. But I mean, why else would it be amazing, right? He wants you running to sex with your spouse, right? So anyway, this picture of intimacy is modeled in the sex, because the physical sex represents the deep level of intimacy that the husband and wife is supposed to have. If in your marriage the intimacy is low, or the intimacy is not there, you're in a terrible situation, because a marriage without intimacy is not really a marriage. Like, it may be technically, but it's not functioning as one, because the difference between my relationship with my wife and my relationship with any other female is the intimacy that I have with my wife, not just physically, but my thoughts, my desires, my dreams, intimacy. I want to be open, right? I want to share me. So, I want to share me, and I want to know you, right? Again, I go into detail about that in the book. But right now I'm just talking about the level of intimacy you should have in your marriage. Now, let me say this, because this has come up over the last couple of days, and I really want to speak to this. Marriage is not for the purpose of your happiness. That's not what marriage is. Marriage is not for your happiness. Now, you may be happy and married, but you don't get married to get happy. If you do that, you're in for a rude awakening, because marriage is not the place you come to find happiness. Happiness is an individual phenomenon. The way you have a happy marriage is you have two happy people married. That's it. But happiness is your responsibility, not your spouse and not the marriage. Okay. But I wanted to point that out, because why is that important? Because I have people that I've talked to recently and doing therapy with, several, that while they may agree with what I just said, the way they're operating is as if you are not making me happy. You are not doing marriage the way that I want you to do. And here's the reality. Don't forget this. I say it often. Nobody marries the person they thought they were marrying. Nobody marries the spouse they thought they were marrying. Why? Because the majority of who you think you're marrying, you made up. You made most of it up. Why do I say that? Because you had in your mind an idea of what I'll say for me, I'll use myself, had in my mind an idea of what a wife was. Now, I take my idea of a wife, and I meet my wife. She's attractive, and she meets some of the things, but there are some things that I want in a wife that I don't see, okay? But the only way to move forward is for me to tell myself either she is my idea, or for me to believe that she's my idea and the things I don't see, they're going to come later. The point that I'm making, all of us do that. It's human nature. You made it up. How do I know? Because you have not seen them in every context, and you can't move forward if you don't believe they're your idea. You wouldn't. And this happens in your subconscious, so it's not necessarily like you're aware of it, right? So anyway, I choose my wife, I marry her, but when I get married, then I start to realize, hey, this ain't what I signed up for. But the reality is, it is what you signed up for. That's why marriage is for mature people. Emotionally mature people are for marriage, because when you're emotionally mature, you're not trying to change folk. When you're emotionally mature, you know how to handle your own stuff. You know how to handle your anger. You know how to handle your frustration. You're not trying to make your partner make up for what you're missing, right? You can accept your differences, and you can, oh, that's different. I didn't expect to see that, but I chose her. I'm not divorcing her, so let me grow. But what I see is people wanting their spouse to show up as the spouse they've always dreamed of. Or you know what, let me say it differently. Because although that's true, me saying it that way is going to make too many of you just check out because you don't identify with the words. So I'll say it this way. You get married, and your idea of a spouse, they're messing that up. And so you think, I married the wrong person. Okay. And you say, this is not working for me. But are you working for the marriage? The way that you have a great marriage is by becoming a great spouse, not wishing you had a great spouse. Okay. And so if you marry someone and it's completely different than what you thought. Okay. That don't mean you have to get a divorce, but it may mean you have to grow. See, you want your spouse to become a better partner, but you don't want to become a better partner. No one, like I said, no one marries a great spouse. No one shows up great. You become great in the marriage. Even me, as the therapist, didn't show up great. I was telling my wife just this weekend how I've grown by leaps and bounds in this marriage. And because I've grown the way that I've grown, I ain't even talking about her, but the way that I've grown, the more I grow, the more I can see how the only real reasons for divorce, there are a few. Cheating and maybe somebody putting their hands on you. I say that because of how much I've had to grow, and in my growing, I've had to deal with me and let her be her. See, a lot of times we're focused on changing them. I don't like the way you talk to me. And let's say the way they talk to you is disrespectful. But you can grow to handle them differently and then help them grow. If you want to know more about that, you're going to have to reach out to me. We got to do work together. But just trust me when I tell you, you can do that way. Okay? Now, so people get married for happiness. What's another reason people get? As a matter of fact, I got a little bit of the book right here. Let me see what I wrote as far as, reasons people get married. Some people get married because it's the next thing to do. That's not a good reason to get married. Some people get married to get out of their parents' house. That's not a reason to get married. The reason to get married, and if you're already married, okay, fine, maybe this ain't for you, or you can still use it too. But the reason you get married is because you're full of love and you want to give it away. That ain't why we get married today. We get married so that we can be filled with love. I want to see how well you can love me. Folk don't come to marriage looking, oh, who can I love? Who can I love? Man, I got so much love. I need to give it away. You? Okay, I'm going to give it to you. But we don't do that. You're supposed to be a professional giver, but you're focused on being a professional receiver. And so now your partner has hurt you. They've done some stuff in the marriage, and they've hurt you. And this is how this all ties together, where I started with marriage is God's idea. Now that they've hurt you, how do you move past it? You wanting to sit on the sidelines while they fix the marriage ain't gonna work. I don't care how much damage they've done. It's not going to work. Now, you may say, well, I don't have nothing else to give. That's fine. Y'all gonna divorce. But them doing all the work while you chill or whatever you do, that's, even if it's an affair, you got to do something, right? Now, it may not be equal work. It may not, the offender may have to do a lot more work, but you at least don't hinder the process. You can at least be respectful. You can at least be kind and courteous. And let me say something to believers specifically. if you claim to be Christian, but at the same time don't want to do relationships the way God say, your Christianity has to come into question. Because watch this. Christianity is primarily about relationships. It is. You remember when a lawyer asked Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? He said, relationships. Okay, he didn't say relationships, but he said, love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. Love only exists in relationships. Love is not just out in the street chilling, right? Love is not in the bathroom. Love only exists in relationships. And Jesus said, it's the most important thing. Even Paul, he said, now the greatest of these is, he said, these three remain, faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. And in that scripture where he's talking about love, he is comparing love. I mean, not comparing, but he takes love and he counters it against giving, spirituality, speaking in tongues. He says at the end of the day, if you don't have love, all of that's just foolishness, basically. So back to Christians. If you're Christian and you're holding grudges, well, shoot, if you're not Christian and you're holding grudges, you're going to suffer. But particularly if you're Christians, because the person that you say you pledge your allegiance to is anti-holding on to things. He is anti-holding grudges. He is anti-punishing your partner and paying them back. So in order for you to have that kind of mindset, you have to have an us mindset, not a me mindset. What I mean by that is the marriage has to be more important than you. Well, I'm not doing that. Okay, so you will suffer. I didn't create it. That's just how it is. I'm just the messenger. Okay? Your agenda can't trump the marriage agenda. And if your partner has done a lot of stuff to mess it up, fine. It's still your marriage. You're still in it. You got to do something. You have to. We're human beings. Nobody's going to carry it all the way by themselves, even if they deserve the hole they're in. It's just. I hope I'm not talking in circles, because when I do this without notes, sometimes I do that. But I hope the main point that I'm making is marriage is God's idea. Marriage needs intimacy. Nobody marries a great spouse, and don't hold grudges. Okay, let it go. Because when you hold a grudge, you're the one suffering, not them. You're holding the grudge. Imagine grudge is like a cactus tennis ball. You're the one holding it. Let it go. Especially if it's your spouse, because watch this, when injuries happen, it is true. When injuries happen, it stops the free flow of love. What kicks the free flow of love back on is forgiveness. So if you don't forgive, you can't move forward. To forgive doesn't mean to forget. To forgive doesn't mean to, just forget all about that and let's just be hunky-dory. No, there's still some growth that has to take place. There's still some making up and band-aids that have to take place. But forgiving is not letting them off the hook. The hook is in you. Okay? Forgiving them just opens the door for reconciliation. But if you're tired, I understand, because I get tired. The thing is, though, so look, I get tired and I want to quit. I can quit. Or I can swallow my pride, because that's all that is pride, and put us first and get back to doing marriage. If you think you have a right to, punish your spouse, or, I'm going to just check out until they get ready. How do you explain that? I'm still talking to believers. How do you do that when God don't do you like that? Are you saying that your relationship with God is so tight that he's pleased with everything in your life, and So because you're perfect, you expect your spouse to be perfect. Like, you don't need God's forgiveness for anything. Folk be, I'm tired of saying the same thing over and over. I'm glad God ain't tired of saying the same thing over and over to me. Because if God got tired of telling me the same thing over and over and slapped me across my head would be in California, and I'll be in Texas. Because he slaps hard. I think. I would imagine if he's all powerful, he'd slap my head off my body. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd be walking around like the headless horseman. I don't want to be the headless horseman. Why am I on this? Because I'm making the point that, so when he says, forgive and you'll be forgiven, when he says, how can you say you love God whom you've never seen, but then you hate your brother whom you see every day? That's for marriage too. Don't get caught up on because it says hate. Recognize the discord in the relationship. You can't say you and God are tight when you and your spouse are not. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Just wanted to give you all that. Happy Thanksgiving is coming up. And for those of you who are clients or potential clients of mine, I do have a Black Friday special coming up. I will post that sometime this week. I'll post that Black Friday special. And I'm only doing 20. So when those 20 are gone, it's gone. Because it's going to be a real deal. And I can only do 20. We still have a business to run. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And I will talk to you next time.